What's up?
It's 1999 all over again. Welcome to Off the Console, the hottest podcast that's all about gaming and tech news and anything nerdy. This week, we're covering the biggest news, talking about CES stuff. We're talking about the SteamOS coming to the Legion Go, and maybe some of the other SteamOS related drama that happened this week, and a ton of other stuff. And this week, we're joined by my friend and announcer for Dudelings, Rich. How's it going, Rich?
That's right. It's going pretty well, man. Just having some fun. I haven't gotten back to making videos yet in the new year, so hopefully I'll do that this weekend. But I'm just enjoying my time off.
You got to do that, man. You can't get burnt out on this. It can be quite a chore being a content creator.
100%.
You got to tell the audience what channel you run.
Fan to deck. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He does that, too, besides my video game.
Yeah. Besides Dudelings, yeah.
I'm going to learn a lot in this episode. I'm going to learn a lot. I did not know that.
You didn't know that? Oh, man, yeah. He did a great job, too. Him and myself and Emily and a couple other folks.
I think Bill did it, too.
Yeah, Bill did it as well.
Bill was epic. Bill's voice was amazing.
Bill sounded like an actual sports announcer, and that's kind of what I was trying to channel when I did it.
Yeah,
and I didn't. So yeah, I was really happy when Bill did it.
Yours was good, but Bill, I'm not gonna lie, he took it to another level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Bill killed it.
Bill knocked it out of the park so much that I made him the default.
Is that true? Did you really do that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
that's great. That's awesome.
But we're also joined by the common hosts of the show, High Tech and James. How's it going, guys?
Doing all right. How about you?
Doing well, man. We've had a heck of a week here. So yeah, we usually start off the show with talking about what games we've been playing this week. Rich, why don't you start? What games have you been playing this week?
I've been playing one game since it came out and nothing else. I've been playing Marvel Rivals, and like season 1 just dropped. Mm-hmm. Yeah, High Tech knows. We haven't duoed yet, but he knows. I've been messaging him, and that game is amazing. Like it's insanely good, and I've been trying the new characters, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, but like Jeff the Land Shark was my main, so I have a soft spot for the shark. Yep.
I see you like war criminals.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I want to take them off the map. They're gone. Everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
It's a fun game.
I heard that works on the Steam Deck. Is that right?
It does for now.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing for now. Like people got banned briefly because of the Steam Deck thing, and NetEase apologized for it. Before it came out, NetEase was like, "Yeah, we're going to be Steam Deck compatible." So they were like vocally supporting. I said elsewhere that like I am kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like I feel like they all turn their backs on Steam Deck, and I also think that like that topic is more nuanced than even I can cover sometimes. But yeah, there's not a lot of anti-cheat supported games on Steam Deck.
Yeah,
I think with time it's gonna come with time.
Yeah,
it will.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, unless they have some sort of sophisticated anti-cheat system that prevents Linux users from cheating as well, which I mean, I kind of doubt. But we also don't know much about their.
It's going to be a money. It's going to be a money thing eventually.
Yeah, I mean, once Lenovo brings out their new SteamOS powered Legion Go, and there's a couple other hardware vendors that do the same thing, I think that's when we'll start to see other anti-cheat games come to Linux.
Yeah, I saw your video, Gardiner, on the Linus LTT, right? Talking about Linux gaming, the state of Linux gaming, and you mentioned like a sea change, and it feels like we're on the verge of that. I mean, like I know it's me, you're the Linux desktop, but it feels like we're getting closer to at least Linux being considered a more serious gaming platform.
Absolutely. I mean, there's already been kind of like a cultural shift among gamers,
for sure,
and it feels like the whole game dev industry hasn't caught up with where gamers are at. Maybe not like it's not mainstream to game on Linux, but like the Steam Deck is making it that way. Like I was watching a video earlier from one of my favorite music creators on YouTube, and she was talking about in her time off she plays on the Steam Deck, and I'm like, that is so cool. Like, just she's a harpist. Emily, I can't remember her last name, but she's a harpist and she plays video games on her Steam Deck, and that's where a lot of people are going to, because it just makes sense. So I don't know. I'm very excited about when the gaming industry actually kind of wakes up and realizes that the dead memes about Bebian and Hannah Montana Linux are over. There's actual serious gaming you can do on Linux now.
Wait, are you talking about Emily Hopkins?
Yeah.
The girl with the two-tone hair?
Yep.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool that she plays on the Steam Deck. I know, I forget which rapper it was. Was it Playboy Cardi that had a Steam Deck? Or was it another guy? I don't remember, but he had it one pretty early on too.
Yeah.
Let's just say that most of the content creators or a lot of celebrities probably have something along the lines of a Steam Deck or something if they like gaming, because it's just easy they're on the go a lot. It's easy. I've been shocked at how many people I've watched where just comes out, they have a Steam Deck or something else. I'm like, it's getting mainstream, and with Fremont and with a desktop drop, from a user experience kind of thing, doing designs and all that, once you make it easy, it's a done deal. And that's the problem with Linux. It's been fun for the advanced user, but it's not as easy for the rest.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I was so bullish on Steam machines way back in the day was because they were ready-made devices that came with Linux on them, and you didn't have to do anything else. But the pricing was wrong, and there was no support for Windows software at all. And so we're at a point now where Valve is selling a hot commodity. The Steam Deck is such an amazing and in-demand thing that it doesn't matter who you are or what your skill level is. If you have some money, you can get an amazing PC gaming console-like experience, and that's why I'm such so excited about it.
So, one thing we don't have on our roster, I don't think, is that Microsoft, at least what I've read, has announced that they're going to be coming out with a handheld version of Windows, or making it so it's more handheld friendly, and it definitely sounds like they're worried. I think they're getting more worried because they put too much into the AI play and not realize that they need to diversify. And like me, I'm done with Windows. I try to touch Windows as the least amount as I can. It's either Mac or it's Linux right now. I'll still do Windows, but my pathway is to get away from it again now. So never thought I'd be here.
I definitely think that my concern about Microsoft is that, assuming you even want them to be successful, which I think some people do, right? In terms of competition, even I will say I want them to have some user base, right? I want them to keep making games. They make good games, and so my concern is they're late, in terms of handheld, in terms of being handheld friendly or having handheld hardware, either one of those two considerations. It feels like they're Zune levels late, right? It feels like that all over again. And I don't know how they crawl out of that hole at this point. I'm a little worried about that.
Well, I think Windows 11 has also proven that they really don't have what it takes anymore to maintain an operating system. They're not testing stuff; they're rolling out updates that completely break people's PCs. And they don't really understand what gamers need in order to play games, and as far as I've seen anyway. I just feel like Microsoft, the only thing they have is the institution of Windows, and that's not enough because that is crumbling beneath their feet, I think. So and they don't even have really Xbox anymore. And I know I got heat for hating Microsoft, which I don't. I actually really like Xbox as a brand. I really have fond memories about Xbox and Xbox 360. But for the last two console generations, Xbox has been in last place, and there's a reason for that. And it's because they don't really understand what gamers want. And so I am pretty confident that Valve does understand what gamers want, and SteamOS is going to be able to cater to them, especially when it's really easy to get a SteamOS device because you don't even have to know how to install it, and you can just go to the store pretty soon. You'll be able to go to the store and buy one. So I don't know. That's where my head's at.
I think it's interesting what Microsoft is doing because they do recognize that things are going to change and things that need to change, and that's part of why they're coming with that handheld. I think it's not just Windows going handheld, but it's also them talking about a quote unquote Xbox handheld. I know the Fox has been talking about that for a while now. If you recall, he's posted a lot about it, about them potentially making one. I mean, and I think the rumors are becoming more and more true. But the big question now is it too late for them?
I think so.
Let's just say it all depends. It really all depends. If they release it in 2 years, yes, it's going to probably be too late. But they might also try to do a huge marketing thing. Like, because they're either going to release it within the next year, or they're going to release it maybe if they feel like Steam Deck is too much of a competition, like Steam Deck 2. They'll line it up with Steam Deck 2 maybe. So
Yeah.
See, I think the most rational threat that we face from Microsoft is them spending $80 billion to buy Valve. That's the biggest. Like, if Microsoft really senses that there's competition and that's going to challenge their dominant position with Windows, they're going to try to buy Valve. That's the biggest issue that we face. And I don't know if Valve will actually sell. I don't
not
think
public,
that they would.
so they don't have the risk of being pressured by stakeholders. If they were public, that would be much worse. Because they're private, they don't have to be pressured by stakeholders. So
right.
Yeah, and that happened with the company that we talked about a couple of times in the podcast. Kadokawa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were pressured by Kakao Media and also Tencent, who are both foreign entities, and they ended up going with Sony.
I think the other thing to keep in mind with Microsoft too is that they probably wouldn't do that because they can't afford it, right? Like, obviously they can afford whatever they want, but in terms of where they're spending money, they are pulling back on spending money in gaming, right? Like, they are just that's it's sort of the, like, I think the reason that I consider them to be in this hole that they have to crawl out of is because they're not willing to put any money into anything, whether it's hardware, gaming, right? Like, they bought Activision, and that was kind of the last nail in the coffin in terms of like Microsoft spending a lot of money, big expenditures on gaming. They're otherwise now they're kind of on this like austerity, right? Like, they're trying not to spend the money there. So it seems like they're just not investing.
They overspent, and their roadmaps all over the place. And them getting rid of, like, they've been planning it for a while to go away from doing Xbox systems per se and to the everything's an Xbox kind of campaign. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think that will be the future kind of for Xbox if they don't want to be like innovative. They could also turn towards handheld and go more that way, and like the Switch route. That could also be very beneficial. There's a lot of routes they could go, and Microsoft, as long as they have good leadership and good vision, they'll do really well. I just don't think they have that.
I mean, realistically, Microsoft has no competition because everything's an Xbox already. Like this, your Steam Deck's an Xbox, your PlayStation 5 is an Xbox. Hell, maybe even your Switch too.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We haven't touched on what you guys have been playing though. James, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a little game that's not released yet. I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want to ruin it for everyone. But Chess Mess, I've been playing it. I'll be honest. I have only played it for about 30 minutes. So I played a couple of rounds. It's fun. It's really fun.
For those who don't know, Chess Mess is the game that I'm working on. It's coming out hopefully in a couple months here. I'm pretty excited about it.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were working on another one. That's cool. Yeah, it sounds like you don't want to spoil, but I was going to ask, what kind of game is it?
Oh, James, you can explain it if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's what is it, like a roguelike chess-based game. So it takes a completely different turn on what chess kind of could be, and it's fun. I actually get kind of bored with because I played a lot of chess. I'm not great at chess, but I played a lot of chess, checkers, and stuff like that. So I like it when stuff that I've liked in the past has a big twist to it, and so that's what's making this fun for me. Is that it's like chess. A lot of parts are like chess, but then has a lot of twists to it, and it's fun.
So the way it works is there's a board, a standard size chess board that's filled with random chess pieces, black and white, and you control both the black and the white pieces. And there's like a par score essentially that every time you capture a piece with another piece, it deducts from that par score. Once you hit 0, a gray king appears on the board, and you have to capture the gray king with the pieces that you have left. So it's kind of a strategy, kind of a puzzle, kind of a roguelike, because in between levels you get cards that add different power-ups and mix up the gameplay. And it's pretty exciting. I sent it to High Tech too. He DM'd me some stuff, like some issues that he found with it. But
All right, so alongside Chess Mess, I've also been trying to 100% Balatro, like completionist plus. That includes beating the game with every deck on Gold Stake, and also every Joker on Gold Stake too, which is which is going to be insane to do because RNG, right? You also can't use seeded runs to finish that either, so you kind of just have to encounter some of the Jokers. Anyways, and yeah, with Chess Mess, I sent Gardiner a couple of clips of me two-turning a board.
dude, yeah, I've never seen anything like that in the game. He scored, what was it, like 16,000 points in one move? I was like, how the hell did you do that? I've never seen that.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Gamer.
Epic Gamer. You ever consider
Absolutely.
sending key to like Magnus Carlsen, like the top?
Dude, I've
chess-
thought about that. I thought about Gotham Chess, and I'm a huge chess fan. I love chess, and I was playing it one day after I had been playing Bejeweled. I was playing Bejeweled on my Steam Deck, and I was like, what if instead of jewels, it was like chess pieces, and you could only move them like chess pieces? And then I tried that. I implemented it, and it wasn't actually that fun. And so I was like, oh, but I've already got all this stuff figured out, so I'm going to change the rules. And I ended up with Chess Mess. So, the idea of getting this out there and then having, some of my favorite like chess players in the world trying it out, that would be dope. That would be so cool. What have I been playing this week? I just got Synth Riders for it's a VR game. It's a little bit like Beat Saber. I want to find some custom songs for it because most of the stuff that's built in is like really synth pop, and that's not my style. But it's similar to Beat Saber, and you have a ball for each hand, and you have to hit the same color ball with whatever hand. But then there's also some cool stuff where if it's yellow, then you have to put your hands together and hit it like that, and you like ride rails and stuff with your hands. It's kind of cool. I feel like it would be more fun if it had music I liked. But then I also played Walkabout mini golf, which is like a VR mini golf game, and it's actually quite cool too. I spent probably an hour this morning playing that.
Damn, I can't wait for Valve to release a deck so I could try out more VR games. Because my brother has a Quest 2, actually. I tried it out, and it's pretty cool. But there aren't a lot of games I really like on there besides Super Hot VR and Beat Saber.
The biggest problem with VR is the games. Like, there aren't that many games, and that's the thing that really bugs me with VR.
You gotta hook that thing up to a computer, High Tech, and play Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
I mean, I would, but it's also not mine.
Yeah, but you borrow it, or maybe steal it overnight.
Yeah.
Deckard. The nice thing about Deckard too, right? It seems like Valve is aiming for it to be more than just VR, right? Like, you're just play whatever you want in your big family, your big living room, your virtual living room, right? And so a lot of that goes towards that chicken and egg problem that VR is facing and that Linux faced before VR. So it's a good way to sort of short circuit that chicken and egg problem.
Yep. No, I'm super stoked for Deckard for sure. All right, before we move on to the actual topics, we've spent I don't know how long talking about whatever, but I want to ask everybody, if you're watching this show and you're enjoying these conversations, make sure you subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube, I should say. We're also available as an RSS feed for the audio podcast, podcast.subscribe2.me. And then there's also, you can actually engage with the show on the Fediverse at Off the Console Show at podcast.subscribe2.me. So you can send comments over there. You can like and share our audio feed over there. It's pretty neat. I'm a big Fediverse enthusiast, so I was insistent on using the software we're using for this. So first topic, let's talk about CES, because it ended yesterday as of recording. And High Tech, we have a bunch of notes for CES this year. Walk us through some of this stuff here that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so we have so many announcements here that I had to make a separate document for them. I don't think Rich, I don't think you sent Rich the document, but I can tell you what they are. So we have AMD's CES keynote. So we have the AMD CES notes. We've got their Ryzen 9950 X3D, their Ryzen 9900 X3D. They've got the Z2 series, which includes the Z2 Extreme, the Z2 Regular, and the Z2 Go, which is Lenovo exclusive for now. And their mobile processor processing units, their 9000 HX series, and also sometimes they're I don't know, man. I don't like AMD's naming scheme. The Ryzen AI 390 HX. I can barely decipher it. How's the average person supposed to do it?
They don't.
They watch our channels and figure it out that way.
All right, well, I guess I'm gonna have to memorize them by heart until they change the naming scheme 5 years down the line or some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Intel also has Panther Lake, featuring XE3 Celestial graphics. I don't know very much about that.
Doesn't mean anything.
But
Celestial.
But in terms of graphics, I think the most important and significant announcement here are the AMD announcements. I mean, the NVIDIA announcements, because they just unveiled the RTX 5000 series. So the RTX 5090 is $1,999. And it's got a bunch of specs that don't really matter until we get them in our hands. But it's going to be the most expensive. And it's probably going to be a lot faster than the 4090. And we also have a 5080 as well. The 5080 is $999, and the 5070 Ti is $749, and the RTX 5070 is $549. There aren't any outlandish claims with these, except for the 5070, which NVIDIA claims will have 4090 level performance with AI and all that shit. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Do we believe it?
I cannot believe it.
I believe it with DLSS 4. I believe it, but you're not going to have the same experience. So I don't remember what they said during the whole press conference thing, but if they ever claimed that it's the same experience, that's a lie. What's not a lie is that you'll have you could probably have similar frame rate, but it's not the same. It's AI assisted or frame generated assistant. We need to start having better terms in the industry for this type of stuff, because it's, I think, important, because a lot of people like it and a lot of people don't like it. And to distinguish this, because it's going to become more and more of a thing with FSR and DLSS.
Should the term be gameplay slop?
No, because it can improve over time. And
yeah.
for me, I don't mind playing with DLSS on. The problem is, what levels of quality do I enable? What other things do I enable? For me, all this tells me, the pricing scheme and everything, why would I get a 5090 if they're claiming to have such high frame rates for these games that maxed out? Why wouldn't I go for the 5080? There's no games that really benefit.
It's the 5070 they claimed had 4090 performance.
I know, but the 5090 though, if you go look at the benchmarks though, they're really high. And so with that frame rate, I don't care about that high frame rate. I want the sweet spot's around 100 for me. Anything more is, I don't do competitive stuff enough to where it matters. So why wouldn't I just buy a 5070 Ti? So that's my takeaway, is like I'm going to be spending less because of this.
Yeah. I think with the like DLSS, like the comparisons between intergenerational or cross-generational cards and like using DLSS, I mean, like obviously it works to their benefit in terms of marketing, but like I don't get it, right? Like what does that mean? Does that mean 5070 with DLSS on compares to 4090 with DLSS off, or is it like balanced versus quality, or like what do they actually mean? And I'm sure that's not what I'm sure how we quoted them, so to speak, is not what they actually said. But I know that they made the comparison, which is just like, I don't know what that means.
So their new technology with a DLSS 4 is multi-frame a generation.
Right.
So it generates 3 frames per traditionally rendered frame. So here are some examples they gave us. So with DLSS off, they gave us 27 frames per second. With DLSS 2, it jumps up to 71, which I believe DLSS 2 is just upscaling, correct? And then DLSS 3.5 is where we had the first iteration of frame generation, which I believe is one generated frame per regular frame. It's 142 FPS, supposedly. And now with multi-frame generation, it's 243 frames per second. And part of me questions, like, the validity of this, because, like, I've seen, like, frame generation, and I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't look very good. Like, have you guys seen interpolated content? Like, content that wasn't made for, like, a specific resolution, but people like to upscale it to 60 FPS or whatever? Like, I've seen that, and it looks really weird, and I've seen a lot of clips, both real life and, like, animation. It looks kind of terrible, and it's going to be a more sophisticated version of that, but part of me wonders if maybe this isn't the way to go. I mean, you're not even really generating frame. You're not even generating real frames. You're generating, like, what if in between frames, right?
So it's really easy to get cynical with this type of stuff. I want to know, what direction do you think they should go? Because our die shrinkage has already gotten almost to the point of we can't really go much more. Performance gains, I want to know what we could do to get performance gains from here on out without just increasing core count and memory. And maybe that's the answer, or maybe that's what they need to do. But where do we go from here? There's going to be some new technologies, and they're going to be rough in the beginning. And I do, like, for me, I don't mind DLSS. I think, and even NVIDIA claimed that 80% of the people that play on their cards have DLSS enabled. So that claim alone, and this is coming from Linus Tech, I watched their podcast before this, or at least part of it, that claim alone indicates that, like, for the average person, they don't care so much. For me, I'm a mixed bag on this. It really depends on the game, but it just depends.
So I think the thing that's going to make the biggest difference is, like, how it feels when you're playing, right? Like, I don't think I've ever played a game with frame generation. Is it even available yet? I don't know. But
Black Myth Wukong has it.
Okay, I haven't played that, so I don't know. But if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel like you're playing a game with a frame rate that, you know, with a higher frame rate, right? If it feels like this weird interpolated kind of morphy bullshit, then it's not going to be worth it. You know what I'm saying? So it has to feel right. And what I have found is that a lot of people just don't have an eye for the minor details in an image, and they don't have people have a better feel for how a game feels than how it looks. And so that's going to be what is really important here. Personally, I'll try it, right? I am skeptical of it. I just don't see how like deep learning can generate frames unless it's also polling the controller at a higher frame rate or something. I just don't see how it is going to be able to make it feel better to play. I don't know. So
partly from my understanding of how the technology works is that when you're playing, let's say, a first-person shooter, and you're going to turn, well, a lot of the pixels on there are already going to be the same. Like, when you turn just a little bit, especially with how fast it's rendering, this is not going to change a whole lot. So they can already they can already detect what 99% of the pixels are probably going to look like each time it renders. That's how it works, and I think it will get better, but at the same time, I don't like, once you get past a certain amount, your eyes can't tell. It's only really, it's just kind of like saying 243 is just kind of a marketing jargon kind of thing. It's a bragging right thing.
Yeah.
Gardiner, to your point, it doesn't address input latency whatsoever, right? So that does still exist. So, a 27 FPS game that somehow gets to 243 FPS, like it'll still feel like a 30 FPS game ish. But yeah, maybe to James's point, right? Like a 142 FPS game that goes up to 243, right? Like you don't need it to be more responsive than 142 FPS, although in like we said earlier, in competitive games that may help, but generally speaking, it's not important. So maybe that's something where, maybe that helps. I don't know. I think for me, I still have like a 4-year-old graphics card in my desktop, right? I am thinking about upgrading right now, but it's just it's not that big of a deal for me. I mostly game on the Steam Deck or RTX Ally X, so yeah, I'm fine with lower graphics.
Yeah, so one more thing I should mention is that I don't have an issue with upscaling. That's not my concern. I think upscaling is fine. I wish games didn't require it, but I mean, it is what it is nowadays. It's just traditionally speaking, the big issue with frame generation is that in order for it to be super useful, you kind of already need to generate a good frame rate already. Like, it's recommended that you have 60 frames per second before you use frame generation. So I'm curious as how NVIDIA addressed this, because I've seen frame generation below at 30 FPS, and it doesn't look pretty. It looks a lot better when you have 60 FPS as the minimum, but a lot of modern AAA games don't run at 60 FPS, unless you have really good hardware or you're running at low resolutions. I think Dragon's Dogma 2 last year was pretty infamous for this, if you guys recall. The frame rate would chug in towns.
Yeah. I mean, James, earlier you said something about dies are shrinking, right? And we're coming up on the end of Moore's law. What is the game industry going to do? The fact is, there's a lot that they can do. There's a lot of performance that's still on the table. They're not optimizing their games for hardware. They're making sure that it works, and then they're updating the drivers to optimize it that way, right? They're offloading a lot of performance stuff on hardware vendors. And at this point, I think what game developers can do is optimize for lowest common denominator hardware, which is going to be the Steam Deck, right, for PCs. And then from there, you'll have much better performance on higher end systems. So I'm really skeptical about all this stuff, because I don't think it's that necessary. Especially if, it's recommended you have 60 FPS before you even turn on frame generation. I just don't see how adding extra stuff that's not actually reacting to your gameplay, your inputs between frames, is going to make a difference at all. I don't know. I want to try it. I'm not completely poo-pooing this technology. I just don't see how it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't care that it's 243, right?
Yeah.
But what all this tells me is that if they're going to claim 4090 experience, and I can put a game in there that is a very intensive game, and if I don't get similar to the with the 5070, similar to the 4090, then false advertising, and I'm going to be pissed off. That's all.
Make that video.
Yeah, I'd make a video. Well, I'd have to get it, and they can't watch this, but but the 57, all this really tells me, I kind of want to build a new computer this year, and I have a 3090 right now. I might just go with the 5070 Ti or something like that. I don't need to buy the $2,000 Series 1. I'm fine with DLSS being turned on for my stuff, and I might stop playing at the highest settings, because even the highest settings don't really matter these days as much, ultra and all that. I might just start playing it high and just going with that. The biggest thing that I don't like is that it has 16 gigabytes of RAM, so I'd be dropping my RAM, my VRAM that is, from what my 3090 is. I'm not a fan of that, but beyond that, it's just kind of not selling me on the 5090.
That's a good point. Even the 5080 has 16 gigs, right? So that might have been a place for at least the 5080 to go to 32
So
the
frame
VRAM.
generation, like this type of stuff, I saw a bunch of stuff on this. The frame generation and these DLSS technology helps with
They did say that,
the
yeah.
RAM usage. Yes, so it does help. It does. They must be doing a bunch. Like it must be doing more than what they're claiming, with optimizing textures and stuff like that. So
Well,
I'd have to dive deeper. Yeah.
Well, Apple said their 8 gigabytes of RAM is equivalent to like 16 gigabytes on a normal Windows PC. Remember that claim?
They know how to optimize their RAM usage really well.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I also don't like what they do with the RAM either, but like they do optimize much better. I'll say that. But they run on Unix. They have better garbage collection. They have there's a whole different reason why they can get away with lower amounts of RAM.
They also have a very fixed amount of hardware that they have to support with their OS versus Windows, which does everything.
Yep, very optimized. They can optimize very easily, and that goes to the Gardiner's point of like you need to start optimizing more for the lowest, one, and that's what Apple does, and then everything else works great up. Steam Deck needs to become the new standard. I think game developers really need to understand that, especially Unreal. Epic doesn't want to deal with Valve stuff, but they're going to have to understand that Steam Deck and is probably going to be the new standard low spec. It's a good spec to hit, and I think most games would do great if they hit that.
Man, yeah. So speaking of which, let's see. So Dell. Let's see what else we had at CES. Dell. They killed off their entire line of products except for Alienware. They instead now have Dell, Dell Pro, and Dell Pro Max, each with their own base, plus, and premium. That's not going to be confusing. And then let's see what...
they simplified it. We can move. Like let's talk a little bit. They simplified it and yet made it complicated. So they killed off like names and stuff like that, and then they went Dell Base Plus Pro, Premium, and then they did Dell Pro Max, kind of like what Apple does. They're just.
I don't know,
Is it really? Is it Dell Pro and then Dell Pro Max?
And then each of those have.
And then each of those have like a base,
and then they have
plus,
so it's Dell
and then
Pro
premium.
Dell Pro Max Premium. That's such
I guess.
Oh my god. Is it Alienware Pro Max Premium too, or what?
I think they're just keeping the Alienware
okay.
stuff the way it is right now.
All
but speaking of which, I'm surprised Dell hasn't jumped in with their stupid Alienware UFO thing. I remember hearing about that many years ago at a CES. And
Whoa! It is not stupid.
all right, okay. I'm not saying it's stupid.
Potentially.
I'm saying Dell is stupid. Sorry, I should have rephrased that.
No, that thing is awesome, and they should have released it.
They should have released it.
still
Or better
can.
yet, I mean, yeah, they can, like, I think it's, I mean, the design looks fairly fine, like, from what I can remember. I mean, I've never touched it before, but, like, I remember the device looked like a decent handheld. This
I mean,
was
it looks like a ROG
It was a Legion
Ally.
Go. It looks like a Legion
Yeah.
Go. No,
Yeah,
yeah.
It has detachable controllers. It has a back. And I think the screen is a little bigger. I think it's like an 8-inch screen, maybe.
Yeah, it was using, like, really old, like, Intel hardware back in the day, so obviously, so they could just update the hardware inside, I think.
I'm looking at a image of it, and it's got like that weird trapezoidal bezel, and it's like, what is that?
It's kind of weird, but they wouldn't have to change that much to then ship it.
Just add a thumb pad, and you're good to go.
And yeah, so speaking of which, we also had the Acer Nitro Blaze devices. And, like, they exist, I guess. I don't really think there's anything really noteworthy about these. I mean, the Blaze 11 has detachable controllers, but that's about it. Oh, and also stuff that wasn't on the list, probably should have added this, but they also had another Zotac Zone. Like, didn't they just release one like a few months ago? And now they have a better version of one. Isn't that like...
So I'm a little bit, I don't know if it's out of the loop, because I know they the Acer Nitro Blaze and the Zotac Zone both came out. But here's the thing. Where do you buy them? Like, I think you can buy them in EU, right? But like Zotac Zone, can you buy that in the US?
I don't know, maybe. ETA Prime got one, so either they sent it to him or, like... I mean, they definitely sent it to him, but, like...
Yeah.
I'm sure you could buy one in the US somewhere. I just wouldn't.
I-
Maybe. Yeah, probably on Amazon or something. I don't know.
I don't see a link on their website.
I'm saying
I
it's pretty hard to buy one. I'm pretty sure. Like, yeah.
Huh.
Maybe
I don't
maybe they just
remember-
didn't sell it.
I don't remember the Zotac Zone having trackpads on it. Interesting.
Yeah, it has dual trackpads, but none of the reviewers ever talk about the trackpads. Like, they don't. Apparently, they don't work with Steam input, but I wouldn't know since none of the reviewers mentioned it.
Honestly, it looks good for the most part. It just should be a SteamOS device.
Yeah, I don't see it anywhere to buy it on their website. I'm on their store and it's not there. So,
Well, they did unveil a new version at CES, so that might be why.
And you know, High Tech, you mentioned reviewers, but like, how many reviewers are there? Like, actual, like, not early reviews, not previews, but like reviewers. I think it's pretty much. Is it?
Like, I think ETA Prime labeled his as a review.
Yes,
And
and
then
I think that's it.
I think there's a bunch of different publications as well, but that's about it. Yeah, there aren't
Yeah.
too many reviewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the big stuff at CES was Lenovo, and I think Gardiner wants to talk about Lenovo.
oh, I'm all about this. This is pretty cool. It comes in a bunch of different flavors, but the one I'm most interested in is the Lenovo Legion Go S hyphen powered by SteamOS. This thing is pretty neat. Now, I've seen a couple comments because I did a video about this a few days ago, and a couple comments are saying, "Oh, it's a Z1 powered device and blah blah blah. It's antiquated," which it just boggles my mind. But the fact is, I believe you can get it in a Z2 thing. Am I wrong about that? You can get the
E2 Go.
yeah.
I believe the
Z2
Z2 Go is actually weaker than the Z1 Extreme.
Oh, is it really? See,
I mean,
I'm not a
I mean-
hardware guy.
I mean,
Technically, but I'm wondering if the Z2 Go is better battery, like better on the battery. It uses the older RDNA 2, which I think is what
it's what the Steam Deck uses.
Steam Deck
Yeah.
uses. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's the one that's default for SteamOS because it
Yeah.
resembles the Steam. It's like I said, Valve is going to be targeting AMD first, and so whatever is going to get closest to what they already have working is probably going to be what's going to be released first.
Yeah, so to be honest, I was questioning at first why they would even make a Z2 Go that's weaker than, like, the Z1 Extreme, but then it hit me. What if this was just the Steam Deck's, like, SoC? Like, straight up, and they just rebranded it to the Z2 Go?
12 RDNA, so it has 12 core compute units, right? And so that's a lot. It's the same as the Xeon Extreme. It's going to be quite a bit more powerful than the Steam Deck, but I don't know about how much more powerful because I don't think the Steam Deck has that much compute units. So
The Steam Deck has 8 compute units, I think.
yeah.
So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so there were some preliminary benchmarks from Dave 2D, and he did some testing. There are improved frame rates, for sure, but I mean these aren't like official benchmarks. This is just him messing around and recording some numbers.
It's like pre-release hardware that he has too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, this has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and
Up to
up to 32. Yeah. So they'll probably have like one or like 2 different models. Like you can get the 16 gig or the 32 gig, and but I believe that the SteamOS model starts at 16 gigs and then 512 gigabytes of storage, and then and the Windows version is going to have a release this month at some point, and then it's going to have like a lower end release alongside the SteamOS version in May.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm really excited about it because having more SteamOS powered hardware on the market is going to make a huge difference. And with the price point starting at like, what is it, $499, so $500?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a big deal. It's going to be like price competitive with the Steam Deck. And it'll also have like upgraded hardware, and you'll be able to get a 32 gigabyte model with 1 terabyte of storage. And I'm imagining 1 terabyte of storage. for a little bit more. And I think that that's going to be a big deal. Like, people will be able to like actually play their games in a way that is ergonomic, you know, in terms of how you, like, your experience with the software. And people like I was saying earlier, I think people are like bullish on the Steam Deck or on SteamOS now, where before it was kind of like this meme of like, oh, Linux for gaming, you know? So I don't know. I'd love, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Go ahead, James.
Go.
All right,
Rich, you're the guest. Go first.
I'll go. So I am excited for more, just like you, Gardner, more SteamOS devices. I'm not that excited for this device. Like, I think it's cool that it exists. I don't know. I mean, like, until I get it in my hands, right? Like, I don't yet know like who I would necessarily recommend it to. Is it like, you know, slightly more powerful, slightly more, you know, cost slightly more than the entry level Steam Deck? So maybe if you want a Steam Deck but you just want a little more power. So like for me, the ROG Ally X, the ROG Ally didn't really fit anything that I was looking for at the time, right? But the ROG Ally X did, which is, it felt like with Bazite, like I got an upgrade on the Steam Deck because I got the more power, but I kept the good battery life, right? Because it just has a large battery. So I was able to still play 5 hours of low end games, but then now I can play high end games and play, you know, 2 hours. Whereas the Go S sits somewhere in the middle there, right? And closer to the Steam Deck. And so, it just, there's a little bit of like, it doesn't feel like the right time. But I may change my mind once I actually get my hands on it. It does look really comfortable, for example. And so maybe it's something that, like, once I play around with it, the reason for being will come to my mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I'm just really excited about the LEDs around the phone sticks.
It's going to make it run faster.
It's
RGB, you know how
it's
it
like
is.
it's like those Nike like light up shoes that kids used to wear in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my god.
Oh, hold up. I like the lights, kind of. I just want to make sure
I do like the
I want
lights.
to be able
Yeah.
to turn them off though too.
Yes.
That'll be
Yeah,
interesting
agree.
to see how they configure that in SteamOS. So for me, I see this device as Steam Deck 1.5. It's not a Steam Deck 2 kind of device. It has almost everything I want the Steam Deck 2 to have. The performance is what's going to be the seller for me. If it feels like it's at least 30% faster than the Steam Deck, I will most likely buy this because it has. I know a few games I've played that the RAM has been the limiter, 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has 8 inches, which is what I want. It's my favorite size of screen. It's honestly pretty
Okay.
I love 8 inches. No, so and then the battery, battery could be a little higher, I think, but then it's got the 2 USB 4s, which then I can play around with eGPUs with SteamOS and stuff. That'd be really fun to try out, just to play around with, just to see what we can get going. It allows for me to play with SteamOS more, which I've already kind of exhausted a lot of stuff on Steam Deck. So
That's fair.
That's for me. That's kind of where it plays. It will be interesting to see what the configuration I want will be priced, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm keen on getting more details. I'm keen on seeing more like actual reviews and comparisons with the Deck's hardware. But I do think that this is good overall, especially because this is the first non-Valve SteamOS device. And that means that we're getting SteamOS
For sure.
as a beta from Valve pretty soon.
They
haven't said
they said before the Legion Go S releases, actually.
Yeah.
So probably sometime between now
April.
and April or I don't know, whenever the device releases.
I think the strong speculation's April.
So I do want to say they did also show off a Legion Go 2 prototype, and that looks super promising. Like my thoughts are that I wish we had a SteamOS version of that device.
What's it
But
gonna
I
take?
mean,
If they release the beta,
Exactly.
That's the
Ah.
thing. If I think I can get the beta onto the Go 2, I probably will just do that. Honestly.
yeah, I mean, I might. That's probably what I'm going to.
That's where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at. Like,
Yeah, and My
Yeah, go ahead.
viewers also echoed my sentiments as well. They were like, "Forget the Legion Go S. When are they going to release the Legion Go 2?" Like, I mean, and unfortunately, we don't have a date besides this year. It could be like November, kind of like when the original Steam. So to clarify, the Legion Go S, the Legion Go 2 is supposed to come with a Z2 Extreme, and it's also supposed to have an OLED VRR display. And it maintains all the unique features of the Legion Go, like, detachable controllers, and also the kickstand, and also the mouse mode, too.
And it looks better. Now, the only crappy thing about it is if you stick with the Windows, is the software still there, or is it as good as Armory? Because that was one of my biggest kickers from my review for the Legion Go, was that software was not great.
They did revamp the software a few times, and
improved,
they also showed off a new version of that software at CES. That's something we'll probably have to ask Russ about, though.
Yeah, it certainly improved. I don't know where it stands now in comparison to Armory Crate. I don't know if they caught up all the way, but it is much better now than it was at launch. At launch, it was horrendous. But so was SteamOS.
Yeah, SteamOS was. Yeah, that's something that people forget.
Yeah.
SteamOS was, I would not put that into comparison because it did have a lot of hiccups, but I'd hit the menu button to try to bring it up in Legion Go. Would not show up. I'd have to press it multiple times, then kind of get it going. It was honestly,
fair.
the lag, and from a developer standpoint, I don't know how they ship that. I don't know how they have that type of lag. The lag on that is very interesting and tells me that they're like what they're writing that app in is very archaic or something, very weird.
It's okay, though. You'll have the SteamOS beta out by then, probably.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yep.
That's the solution.
My thing about SteamOS on the new Legion Go is just like Linux new hardware is gonna be a little flaky, especially if like the controller buttons aren't like mapped correctly, it'll probably work and it'll probably get fixed really quickly after launch, especially if we have the SteamOS ISO. But I don't know.
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Just go
No,
ahead,
go ahead.
Rich.
Oh, I was going to ask, you mean for GoTo, Gardner? The button thing? You're concerned about GoTo mapping?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if they're already, because what they do with controllers, right? Aside from handhelds, what they do with controllers is they do two things. Number one, they add the controller to kind of just Steam as an application, right? So they add support for that, which includes the actual, like, sometimes even the image, right? Like as much as the image. So you can map that. But then on the SteamOS side, all the time they're adding new drivers for new controllers.
Yeah.
And if they're already partnering with Lenovo, I fully expect them to go ahead and do the same thing with the Go 2. And I don't know if you were about to say this, High Tech, but you mentioned in another chat that it looks like it's the same, like probably the same driver for the Go 2.
Yeah, so it looks functionally identical. I mean, the shape's changed. Maybe some of the internals have changed, but it looks functionally the same. They also one more pet peeve I had about the original Legion Go was that the start and select buttons were like in the bottom left corner. Remember that? They changed it, and now it's in a more convenient position, like in the top right corner of like one of the controls in the top left. Like it's in a natural position. They also added some buttons where those old start and select buttons were. I think those are Windows functions. I don't know what those do, but they're irrelevant for now. Also, one more thing too is that they mentioned that no, this is a different company. GPD released the Win 4 2025 edition, and they mentioned that they will be shipping a version with SteamOS in it, or some supported by Valve or some bullcrap like that.
Yeah.
But then The Verge came out and said that no, we're not working with GPD. So like, I mean, Steam beta release of SteamOS, so like there's that too. But like, it's kind of a weird thing to say that Valve is officially supporting your device.
Yeah, they said that the Win 5 or Win 4 was going to support SteamOS, parenthetical, with the help of Valve, and their website still says that. even though Lawrence Yang came out and said, we ain't doing that, like, we're not working with GPD, like, we don't have any connection with them.
with the help of Valve, because Valve has done so much open source wise. And
Yeah.
Yeah, Valve provided an operating system for you to install on your GPD Win, man. They totally helped out.
yeah.
But I mean, dude, I was like, I heard that news like before Liam reached out to them and asked like, what the heck? And before Lawrence was like, we're not doing that. I heard it and I was like, oh man, this is like really cool. We're going to have 2 SteamOS powered devices on the market like really soon. But no, I'm glad I didn't jump on it immediately and make a video, because that was just, it was wild. Like, and the response they gave to Liam was, did you guys read that? Like, Liam reached out to GPD, and he was like, what are you like saying here? Like, that's obviously not true. And they were like, well, let me tell you one thing. And then they just didn't respond to any of his questions. And they were like, this is going to happen. And, Valve reached out to us via email like several years ago. So they're definitely going to do it. Like, and it just didn't make any sense. Like, so there's a whole bunch of
Sounds
weird
like
drama with that.
they lost their credit card to a phishing attack.
Ow.
Right?
Hey, we put our credit card down for the first beta of that ISO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad form. But I mean, like we said, SteamOS beta coming out soon, so they'll have their own way of getting it.
Yeah.
With the Legion Go, the original one, from my understanding, someone has gotten like I can't remember if it was Bazite or like because there's been a couple of like Halo or Halo or something like that versions of SteamOS or SteamOS like operating systems that they put on Legion Go, and that the controllers worked fine with it. So
Yep.
I don't.
Yeah, officially those drivers already exist, right? In Linux,
Yeah.
in the Linux kernel, for sure. Yep.
And
They will use
apparently Lenovo's been quite helpful to the Bazite team, last I recall.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Lenovo from them.
And Bazite just shipped their NVIDIA, their new NVIDIA ISO.
That's right.
Image or whatever. So
That's very exciting.
That's very exciting.
They've been working on this for a few months behind the scenes, and they released it the day I did my Linus Tech Tips video, where I said there is no support for NVIDIA cards in GameScope. And so
and you were wrong.
I was wrong. Yeah.
Kyle Gospanich trolled the hell out of me, dude.
Dude, I have done that. I hate it so much.
Oh, dude. Yeah, but no, this is really cool. This is really exciting because I have a machine out here in my living room with a 3060, I think, in it, or a 3070, and it's got like I have Bazite on there, and you can't launch into GameScope with it. You can't go into game mode. It's you have KDE, and you launch the game, launch Steam through big picture mode or whatever, which might not sound like a big deal, but if you remove that desktop like layer, you're getting like 2 or 3 extra FPS, and things are just a little bit smoother. And the overlay, right? Like the Steam overlay injects itself into the game's executable from desktop mode. But if you're in GameScope, it doesn't have to do that. And you actually gain performance when you bring up the overlay, because it's actually the GameScope windowing compositor that adds the quick access menu and the other menus and stuff over the game, which is really neat. There's a ton of like just little things that are quality of life improvements. If you have a game that's like exclusive full screen, right? GameScope captures that and prevents the game from actually taking over full screen. It prevents your monitor from mode switching, right? Which can introduce like a second or two of like a black screen where you can't actually like play the game. It's so neat. I don't know if you can tell, but like I'm geeking out about this stuff, and it's available now through Bazite. There are some gotchas. There's some caveats. It's because of the NVIDIA drivers, the open source ones. There are some known issues here, and most of those known issues can't be addressed by the Bazite team. Like they have to just wait for NVIDIA to upgrade the drivers. which kind of sucks, but it's understandable. And they have a big old disclaimer. If you switch to this, you want to download this ISO, it's going to say that same thing. But it is really cool nonetheless. And it's good to see that. And I think that it might also be an indication that Valve's been working on supporting NVIDIA on GameScope, because, that would kind of be a necessity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of know that to be true, right? Like, we've seen some of the commits, we've seen some of the I
change
forgot
logs.
what is it?
The change logs.
Yeah, the change logs. I was trying to think of the specific feature where they implemented for NVIDIA GameScope. That was like, I don't know, like 6 months ago. There was a specific feature.
Like DLSS?
No, it wasn't like an NVIDIA feature. It was like a feature of GameScope that was not supported in NVIDIA that they implemented about 5 to 6 months ago.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah. But that's fine. But yeah, they've been working on it. But I'm curious to see. So have you tried it yet on your 3070 machine, Gardiner?
Not yet. I'm going to. Probably today, actually.
Sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, hearing more.
Yeah, make a video.
I'm going
Please.
to.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super interesting, man. I love Bazite. I am curious as to what's going to happen to Bazite once SteamOS actually releases. But I think I wonder how much of Bazite's work has actually gone back into the SteamOS itself.
I would guess non-zero. Like, there's got to be some things that are heading back that way from Bazite. Even if it's like small controller drivers or XDG configurations or something, I would imagine some of that's going back upstream. Upstream's not really the right word, but
Might have to ask Kyle.
Yeah.
So how SteamOS is going to go, and it's what it sounds like more and more, is that they're going to roll out to like AMD, and they even had to correct like AMD handhelds. So they're going to be going very like careful on what architectures that they support. So that's going to be AMD probably, and then eventually they'll support. And the thing is, even when the beta comes out, it might work on, let's say, on an NVIDIA machine with an AMD CPU. Let's just say, it might work fine if you download the drivers in desktop mode, but in the future, they'll probably slowly roll out support for NVIDIA, and it looks like they already kind of are trying to work on that. But who knows how long that will take. So Bazite will be a good option for a while if you want to be more of a Linux gamer and switch over and you have an NVIDIA card. Because, yeah, you'll just have a better experience with that. If that's the type of experience, especially if it's handheld, but...
Yeah,
does a handheld even have NVIDIA stuff except for laptops?
Yeah, I feel like for like general desktop usage, I'd probably use Bazite on my desktop. Like once I switch over to Linux, of course. Like I would use Bazite for my regular desktop usage without GameScope though, since I probably wouldn't be running things in GameScope on my desktop. I mean, sure there's a benefit to that though, but like I also like the ability to like alt tab out of my stuff to do other things with multiple monitors, stuff like that. But of course, for like the living room, it's probably going to be either Bazite or SteamOS at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm just drew a blank. I don't even know where I was going. Never mind. I just totally blanked.
I think you're right, High Tech. I think desktop wise, I think Bazite's a great option, and then for handheld and like TV, because I want to do like or Fremont or whatever, when we get the specific like console like experience, like Fremont could be good, but SteamOS also would be a good place. But SteamOS on a desktop right now doesn't necessarily make sense as much.
Yeah, it certainly, like you said, set-top box, handheld, it makes the most sense. And if you also want to install on desktop, sure, but that's not at least what I'm excited about. It's definitely I do want to see a set-top box, and I want to see it with in it like a high-end NVIDIA, because I want to be able to replace my console with a Steam box, whatever we want to call it. I just want to be able to do that.
Well, it will be an Xbox still, so it's going to be an Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. It will definitely be an Xbox.
I've seen. I'm with you guys. I think like it makes the most sense for a TV situation, but I have seen a significant amount of people who say I'm really excited about the SteamOS beta because I want to replace Windows on my desktop, which. That's, I would say I've seen probably 6 or 7 comments just on my last video where I was talking about the Legion Go S, right? And I've seen it across a bunch of other ones where I was talking about SteamOS public release. So there are a bunch of people out there who really want to do this because it's going to have Valve support behind it, like put it on their desktop. And I'm curious what you guys think. What changes would Valve need to make to SteamOS to support people using it in that way, or would convince you to use it in that way as a desktop operating system replacement?
So it wouldn't take much, but they would definitely, and it wouldn't even take much to make it so that it would support desktops better. They just need to make sure that it doesn't go into GameScope automatically. It needs to go to desktop first, and that's honestly just a simple flag somewhere. I believe I've even messed with that enough to do it on my own, because I have an app I developed in SteamOS on the deck in desktop mode. So I've done a lot of desktop modes kind of things, and let's just say there's a lot of the Steam Deck, horrible desktop replacement. I'm just gonna say it, at least for a power user. But SteamOS itself, great at Linux experience, and I think people aren't gonna be too sad about it. I don't think they're gonna have to do too much. Like. Everything's there, like being able to search for applications, being able to use a store to download applications. If they're used to that in Microsoft or Mac, like they'll be fine.
I also agree too. I think Valve would need to have an option to, just have us go directly into desktop mode, because as it stands right now, with no matter what operating system you're on, with like SteamOS, it'll go straight into the game mode. And then you have to press the power menu to go to desktop. And to have to do that every single time is going to be nerve-wracking, is going to be annoying. Because you can't really get work done in game mode, right? Because people aren't just talking about, like, playing video games, too. They're talking about doing, like, stuff on their gaming PC as well, right?
Yeah. I don't have a lot of reason to go. Like, if I do install SteamOS on my desktop, like you were saying earlier, do I really need to go to game mode? Or am I just in desktop mode the entire time? I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree with James. It needs to be a better desktop experience than it is today. If I look at like Ubuntu or other Linux, there are better desktop solutions out there today, even just Linux. So somehow they'll have to combine all of that for a really nice desktop experience.
I don't think that's their focus. I don't know if they'll ever come out with a version like that. I think it'll be either a fork or Bazite kind of thing. I just don't know. I don't see them wanting to do a desktop version until they start thinking they want that in their personal life. And that maybe we'll get that. Because that's sometimes how it goes. They kind of want something.
Especially for them.
Yeah.
They're big on the dog fooding, right?
Valve is a big proponent of that, which is fine. Yeah. Like, we'll have other options. And the biggest thing is that they're supporting what they do support, Proton, and a couple other items like their Steam client work great on other operating systems too. So, to a point, that is. So we're still going to be getting a lot of the benefit, right? So as long as they're focusing on, I'd rather them focus on NVIDIA and getting like a full experience for everyone than the desktop itself. But once again, all they have to do is flip that switch of allowing the person 100%. Installing it to choose if they want to do it into desktop or into GameScope. That's it. That's all they'd really have to do starting out.
And in SteamOS 1 and 2, they had that option at one point. Like you could choose which one you booted into. And so I think right now they're focusing on game mode, but it really would be trivial for them to add that, I think. So
yeah.
I mean, and if you think about like the way compositors work and the way stuff works, it is really easy. Like every major greeting login system, it doesn't matter if it's KDE or GNOME or whatever, they all let you change that before you log in. So it's really simple. But with that, let's move on to the next story. This is interesting. Tencent is designated as a Chinese military company by the Department of Defense. What is this about, High Tech?
It's exactly as he said. They've been
Yeah.
designated as a Chinese military company by the U.S. government, and this doesn't have any consequences as of yet. So they haven't seen any sanctions, but because Tencent is more than a gaming company, they have their hands in a lot of different pies. But of course, the one most relevant to us is gaming. And for those who don't know, they fully own Riot Games, who owns League of Legends, Valorant, Arcane, whatever else they may come up with in the future. And they also fully own Grinding Gear Games, and guess what games they make? Path of Exile 1 and 2. And then they also own majority ownership of companies like Visual Arts, who makes like Clannad and the other visual novels by Key. They also own majority in Turtle Rock Studios, who developed Left 4 Dead, Evolve, and Back 4 Blood, and Clay Entertainment, who develops Don't Starve, and Supercell, who develops Clash of Clans and whatever else they is in that universe. I know they have a couple, and they also own a decent amount of shares in companies like Shift Up that make Stellar Blade and Nikkei. How am I supposed to pronounce that? I don't know. And of course, Epic Games, best known for Fortnite and the Unreal Engine. Let's see, Bloober Team, who did Silent Hill 2 remake. They also directly own some shares in From Software. And Remedy, Krafton, who did PUBG and the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
And Kadokawa. And how many times have we talked about Kadokawa on this show? Like, too many times at this point, right?
Yeah, too many times.
And they also have some shares in Discord, Roblox Corporation, Platinum Games, Playtonic Games, and Bohemia Interactive. And there's a bunch of other companies I didn't recognize in the Wikipedia list, but they own a lot more.
So it's fair to say if you have Epic Games Launcher installed on your machine, then you have foreign military software on your computer?
Oh.
I like giving Epic as much shit as possible.
It couldn't be worse than North Korean Linux.
So they don't own a majority share of Epic, I believe. So
No, it's 40%, I think.
they own. So Epic is still controlled by the founder.
Tim Sweeney.
So that gives him a lot of sway. Like, he wants it to be like that. It gives him a lot of sway to not have to do certain things, which is the saving grace. Unlike League of Legends, which is now classified as spyware on our app, on Windows now, right? With this new thing, I don't know. All I know is that if the company that buys you out owns military or does military contracts and stuff like that for foreign governments and stuff, like, I don't know. I have a hard time being empathetic, but at the same time, I'm just like, I mean, you got bought up by China, and they tend to do this type of thing, like Chinese company that is. What will this mean for them though? Like, does this mean anything really serious for them?
I don't know. I mean, I do. My company does work with a company that has military contracts, and I think not military, government, and maybe potentially military as well. But we also just do printers and stuff too. I think we talked about this. But yeah, it's an interesting time because what's going to happen if the U.S. sanctions Tencent? Is like League of Legends going to be?
But where does
crippled?
even the sanctions thing come from, right? Like, have they done that with other Chinese military companies for the U.S.? I know that there are other things, right? Like, there's the TikTok thing, and then there was the TP-Link thing, right? Where, and even the TP-Link thing seems to be in progress. Like, I don't think we've gotten word on whether or not they're going to do anything about TP-Link. So TP-Link is the router modem company that sells a ton of modems and meshes in the U.S. But the Department of Justice has threatened, I think, to ban the sale of TP-Link. But I don't think anything actually came of that. But this doesn't even sound like that, right? Like, this just is just like, has the U.S. government done sanctions on any other companies that have been designated as Chinese military companies?
By the Department of Defense too. Like, this isn't like the trade commissions or anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is just the military kind of. I would imagine what this means is like the Department of Defense internally is just not going to allow this kind of software. But I don't know for sure.
Don't install League of Legends on your your government contracting laptop. Don't do that.
So
or any Tencent mobile games. Like you can't have them on your phone. Like that
or Fortnite.
No Fortnite.
Does this mean you can't install any games that use Unreal on your?
I mean, you shouldn't be. If you are working for the government, you shouldn't be installing any games on those machines.
Like that's that's a little ridiculous. Like, get your own computer.
Yeah, even with the decent amount of shares thing, that's a gray area. What this ultimately, I think, is going to be is either two things. Like, either it's going to be a big deal for whatever the agenda is going to be for the next little while. Not getting into politics too much because you never know. Like TikTok's on the verge of being banned completely.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they are going to be banned on the 19th unless, I don't know, they sell to Microsoft or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this means that with that happening, and let's say they could do it. Who knows? They could attack it. It could be something. I would be a little worried. Let's say if I was Riot Games personally, I know that they're not happy about this, but I also think that the Riot Games location is based in the United States, right? So
yeah, they're a U.S. based game development.
It's already kind of like it's different than the TikTok thing. It's already been segmented a little bit. So, I know it will be interesting. Let's just say like it's a weird thing to say that League of Legends is a Chinese military company's, and it's not, but it's just it's an interesting topic that will probably not go anywhere, but you never know these days.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that like League of Legends is a I wouldn't just blanket say that it's part of the Chinese military, but I would say like based on this, it seems like our military considers it potentially hostile, right? Like that's what this news story says to me. Like it's a potential avenue of attack, right? Like even though it's owned by an American company, if that American company is primarily owned or wholly owned by Tencent, then it could be a vulnerability at some point.
Yeah, entirely owned by Tencent too. They own 100% of it.
Yeah,
and they also run an anti-cheat that they recently implemented into League of Legends, but it's been a part of Valorant for like the entirety of the game.
Oh,
I believe it's So I think what is it called? Vanguard. I think
Vanguard. Yeah,
it's kernel level anti-cheat.
Vanguard is brutal, and it fucking sucks.
And we don't take it lightly when James swears.
No, I have you cannot launch video editing software with that thing. It will fucking scream at you. Yeah. So if I can't come on. I'm sorry. This is one where I'm like, I wanted to try a Valorant, and it was such a mess. And I've never really had that in a long while that I'm just like, okay, you guys can just really screw off. Like, it really pisses me off.
Yeah. The thing about anti-cheat like that is essentially a rootkit. It is literally like digging into the kernel of your operating system, and it has access to the memory of every program on your machine, right? Like it can get in there and get whatever it wants, and you have no control over it. And like you said, you can't even launch like legitimate other software. So it's like that's fully owned by a potentially hostile foreign military, and that is terrifying.
That is very bad.
Yeah. So, on a semi-related note, Genshin Impact recently suffered a hack via vulnerability through their kernel level anti-cheat, and that is a concern. People like to claim that it's not an issue because it's never happened before, but it has happened.
Yeah.
Are they gonna? Is that their guise for when China wants to sneak in some information? Like that's a little bit my worry. Like, when is this stuff going to be compromised? I'm not really the biggest privacy person, but at the same time, I'd play League of Legends now on a box. I wouldn't do it in the same, especially with that type of anti-cheat. I would not do it on the same computer. I'd have passwords and a bunch of other stuff on. And I'm not even that big of a
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
privacy person, but yeah, definitely with that type of stuff I am.
Yeah.
What this
Yeah.
means is you can't play League of Legends on Linux anymore, and for the longest time you were able to, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thankfully, we can't install those kind of rootkits on Linux. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least from my perspective, I think that it's, I don't even want to have that option. Like, it's just terrifying to me.
They can make their own operating system, Linux operating system, right? Like their own flavor.
Oh.
And
Yeah, I
bake
mean
it
North
in.
Korea did it. North Korea
Yeah.
did it, and you could
Red
probably
Star.
you could install that on your Steam Deck probably.
Yeah.
The great
that would be
leader
interesting.
ISO.
I don't know. We're all fans of hardware, SteamOS and hardware, handheld games. And Switch 2 fans are actually going a little nuts about the possibility of an optical sensor on the Switch 2 Joy-Con. Rich, I know you have to go in a few minutes. Give me your thoughts on this.
I am excited too. I like it was one of my favorite features of the Lenovo Legion Go was that, mouse, detachable mouse basically. And I love playing shooters on my handheld. But I'm not, I don't like the traditional console controls for shooters. I like flick stick and I like mouse and keyboard. So this gave me a chance to have the mouse control. So I'm excited for this. I also am excited for this, obviously, from what I think is their perspective, right? Like DS emulation. So like DS, 3DS, how does that, translate over here? What I thought we were going to see with the Switch 2, which I don't think anymore, but just based on the leaks that we've seen, is I thought they were going to sort of like officially there's an accessory for the Switch 1. I think it's called Flip Up or something like that, where you rotate the Switch to be vertical. So and then you
Like
can
in Tate mode?
yeah, exactly, like in Tate mode, and then you can attach the Joy-Cons like that. So I thought that was going to be a way to also do like DS, 3DS emulation, so that you could have like the dual screens. So I guess they're not doing that, but this otherwise just looks. I like the idea of being able to use a mouse.
So real quick
Yeah.
before you go,
Yeah.
do you think it's going to be called the Switch 2 though? Because I personally
Heck
don't.
yes, they have to do it. I know we joke a lot about the Super Switch, and that's the best. That's the second best possible name, but they have to go with like continuity. It's all about continuity. I think for the success of the Switch, you can't have anything that feels like a slight upgrade or like slight tangent. It has to be, this is the next Switch. You were a success with the Switch. You have to do it again now with Switch 2, right? And there was the question of whether or not that question is no longer existing, but like whether or not it would be backwards compatible, that too, right? Like they have to be backwards compatible. Otherwise, what is even the point?
Right.
I mean, that would be a good point to say why they would use Super Switch is to indicate, oh, well, it is backwards compatible. It's just the better Switch. But I think you're right, too. I don't know if that would sell as many units as just what feels like a complete new iteration on the hardware, which I've seen the leaks and everything. I'm sure you guys have, too. It does not look like a real iteration on the hardware. It really, I am very underwhelmed on it. I'll be honest.
So part of the reason why I don't believe it's going to be called the Switch 2, it's a two-factor thing. So first and foremost, Nintendo's just never called anything the 2. Like, we've never seen an NES 2, SNES 2, N64 2, GameCube 2. Probably the closest thing is the 2DS, but that's not even, like, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so another thing is that, like, I remember Microsoft talking about this, like Microsoft was talking about why they didn't want to call their Xbox, the next Xbox, the Xbox 2, because the PlayStation 3 was already there, and like most consumers will see the PS3 versus the Xbox 2, and they'd be like, oh, it's the 3, that means it's better. Like, it's the dumbest thing, but it's also something consumers actually do. So,
Well, that's why they're going to call it the Switch U.
Oh my God! If they do that, then they deserve
Switch
everything that's coming to them. Xbox would have definitely named it Xbox 2 if the original Xbox sold 100+ million units. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Well, then again, it's Microsoft, and Microsoft, you guys, Gardiner and James, you guys are both developers, so you guys know Microsoft is the worst at naming anything.
Oh,
they are
the
so
Linux
bad.
subsystem for Windows versus the Windows subsystem for Linux.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a doubt in my mind that they would have named it logically, but and then to your point about Nintendo, I think you make a good point, except I think about Nintendo never naming anything too. I am all about like leadership, like who is the leader at an organization, or what is the culture at an organization. And so like Microsoft's culture has changed ever since Satya Nadella took over, right? Nintendo's culture has been evolving for a long time. And right now their culture, I think, is more keen on sort of like being up to date, let's say, right? Like with the current standards. That's why I think they're going to be backwards compatible. So like they've been, consistently like, oh, we're just going to do our own thing. And as far as like, low end hardware, they're going to continue doing that. But I think they know that they have to go with familiarity and backwards compatibility.
I just don't think they're going to do a number. I think they'll do some weird thing like they always
Super
do.
Switch.
That's the best non-number answer.
Well, and they've had backwards compatibility before. Wii U, kind of stuff like that. So,
GameCube or Game Boy, also.
yeah, Game Boy. They
Super
have
Switch
back.
Advance.
Yeah, so
Yeah, dude.
I'm here for Super Duper Switch. I'm here for that one.
I like it.
Switch
Super duper
64.
The
Ultra
Uber
Switch.
Yeah.
At least
Oh,
we
dude,
didn't-
Ultra Switch would be great because that would be a callback to the.
my God.
Yeah, I love that.
What's the bits for this?
It's a 64-bit.
So
I know, but don't worry about it.
So at least we can all agree that they're not going to call it the Switch U or the new Nintendo Switch.
Oh, that's the other. That's the other one. That's what they're gonna call it.
That
It's
would
the
be
new
horrendous.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was thinking memory bus, by the way. What's the
Oh,
memory bus bit?
Yeah.
Like, is it? They'll
think
map
it's
to that
192,
like
right?
250.
It could be
Then-
192.
Switch 192. I'm here for it.
Oh man.
Hey, that would be better than the new Nintendo Switch. I would go with Switch 192.
The new
There's no-
Nintendo Switch
There's
U.
no way
Super
they could
Mario
do new
192.
Right. Yeah. Super Mario 192. Yeah.
Dude, what happened between Super Mario Bros. 3 and what happened to Super Mario Bros. 4 through Super Mario Bros. 191?
Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, dude. Yoshi's Island. What's up?
Oh man.
That's awesome.
All right,
You know, I
guys.
think yeah.
I was just saying, I think I gotta head out.
All right, take care, man.
Rich, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Yeah,
it was a
Great
pleasure.
to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
guys.
appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. See ya.
Talk soon.
All right, see ya.
Yeah.
So here's something that I was thinking, and everybody knows that I give Nintendo a really hard time because of some of their like IP issues, right?
Right.
But I also really applaud Nintendo when they deserve it. The fact that they are innovating. I mean, this is something that Lenovo did, right? But also, like, it's still like an innovation for a console to have an optical mouse essentially available for gameplay. That's huge for like. There are very few other game companies out there that innovate as much as Nintendo does, right? They're
I
willing to
agree.
take risks.
And I do like that a lot. I'll be honest though. Beyond that, there's not much risk taking with the Switch, and even that is not really much of a risk in the sense of like it might not be used, but I don't think it's gonna like. It's not like going from Wii to Wii U kind of thing, and
Right.
But I do
Yeah.
agree. Like they do, at least iterate or innovate. That is, and so does Sony. Like with the PlayStation, they try to innovate too in their own ways, like with their controllers and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I was thinking, like James, you brought it up earlier, where you're like, what's going to happen when we hit Moore's law, and there's not going to be much more performance to extract from hardware? Innovation, right? Like we've kind of stagnated on the traditional controller layout. Like every third-party controller I have looks exactly like this in terms of inputs, right? And it's like having like that's one of the reasons I'm really excited about the Steam controller too, is because it has like all of the same stuff that the Steam Deck has, but it's going to be available to anybody who isn't playing on a Steam Deck. And so being able to innovate is going to be huge in terms of input, in terms of experience. I just I'm last week I said that I have zero interest in the Switch 2, but like after seeing this, I'm kind of like, okay, I could see this being pretty neat. Especially if they implement it in a game like Mario. Like, how did you implement that?
Or play Call of Duty crossplay with, a PlayStation player, and you're able to own them more because you have better precision.
Yeah.
Or Halo.
Or Halo.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah. Well, that's on our list, right? Like, Halo and possibly other games are going to be coming to the Switch, too. And the PlayStation 5. So, yeah, I mean... this is from Windows Central, right? Like this news.
Yeah, Jez Corden. So
Jez Corden, yep.
Yeah, so Halo, the game that basically made Microsoft the Xbox the juggernaut it is today. Imagine that coming to like PlayStation 5 and like Switch and stuff. Like you would have never seen that coming. Like I know, like back in the day, they were like trying to get Halo on the Nintendo DS, like the first one, like a long time ago. I remember that. Nothing ever came from it, I don't think, but, I mean, it was an ambitious idea at the time, and now it's being realized in the form of, like, 5 or 6 full Halos now.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Bill Gates is standing on stage, he unveils the Xbox 360, or the original Xbox, and then The Rock comes out and says, and you can buy our best games on the PlayStation 2 as well, or, like... It's ridiculous. It's good for gamers, but it doesn't make any sense for Microsoft. I don't know.
Yeah, it really depends on if you're trying to sell units or you're trying to sell exclusivity. There's a lot of reasons to open it up, and I like that Microsoft's doing that with Xbox. I think they're doing a good job, at least to PC. But yeah, opening it up to PlayStation and Switch is a little weird because. Microsoft owns the PC space for the most part for gaming, right? And so it makes sense to bleed into that area.
It's kind of like I'm reminded of Microsoft's strategy in the early 90s. Embrace, extend, extinguish. And that's really what this feels like to me. Like, if they can get their flagship games, which they don't really have a whole lot of anymore, even though they keep buying up IPs... Like, if they can do that, what else can they do? Like, especially if they're selling these games on other platforms and giving them away for free on Xbox with Game Pass. It's like, I just don't understand the strategy here, and my paranoia about Microsoft is kicking in.
So, okay, guys, get surprised in like how long has it been since they've acquired their companies? Like 2 years now, since they've been really acquiring things. So let's say give it 4 to 6 years for a lot of the projects they probably started or like made some of these game companies like Blizzard, Bethesda and stuff like that. Like there's probably going to be a huge plethora of like very specific flagship type games coming in like 4 years from now. There's a good chance because they probably want to. They bought up those IPs. They're going to want to use them. It'll be interesting. So I'm not going to say that Microsoft's out of the game yet, or even out of the game of like out of the games of games. But they're changing their strategy, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays. Because even if they get all those games onto every device, I think they'll make a killing and they'll make a lot more money, technically. than if it was just exclusive on Xbox. And so we'll see, though. We'll see.
I mean, Sony. I mean, the same could apply to Sony too, with them releasing all of their games day one on everything too. But yeah,
They are not.
well,
They're
yeah,
only, they're
That's
only
what I'm
releasing for, and they're not even doing day ones for Steam. But Sony and Nintendo are very different, and I don't know if you know what I'm like. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way. Like they're different, and they want to innovate and they want to do their own thing, but that doesn't mean that, especially with hardware limitations. Like, what are they going to sell in the future? Like, what are they going to do in 6 years, 10 years when hardware doesn't improve as much as they need it to? Like, I'm just curious on that.
I don't know, man. It's a bit of a conundrum, and like all of this stuff really like ticks me off about Microsoft because I know Microsoft can do better with their Xbox brand. Like, I know a lot of like Gardiner said earlier, a lot of our comments are like, it seems like Xbox hate, but we don't hate Xbox. We're kind of upset because we liked Xbox like in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I still have my 360 hooked up in my living room. Just saying.
yeah, like if we hated Xbox, we probably wouldn't be talking about this at all. And
Right.
yeah, we'd be like irrational fans.
Oh no, you'd be talking about Xbox a lot more, but yeah, we don't talk about Xbox enough. But like it, haters love to talk. Like, okay, I will say that. I will say this: they bought them. Like, give them time to cook. Give them time to just maybe get some IPs rolling because it's not going to be an instant thing with games. But I agree from the hardware standpoint. If you're a big Xbox fan, like from the hardware standpoint, it's going to be.
Yeah, like I mean,
don't
they still put out games that are like really good games. Like I hear like Indiana Jones is good. Like I know you've played it, right?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and
So this is their play. I don't know. I'm not angry with Xbox for doing what they're doing. I do think that they should have switched over to a handheld like this year or last year, and that should be their flagship, and have it be like able to plug into the TV or something. I think they're gonna have to do some type of play like that. I'd love to see that. That'd give me more faith in Xbox if they went and just did a different play, because that's kind of what gamers are wanting more and more, is to be able to play on the go, right? And so, not everyone, of course, but it'd be interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time for Microsoft and Xbox fans. We don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they should introduce some AI into what they're doing.
Oh no! Oh no!
Have they? Does the Xbox have AI? Sorry, like I haven't used an Xbox in a while.
I haven't either. I don't
think
know.
Copilot is on Xbox now.
So you can write some really shitty code on Xbox too.
Well, I think Copilot. Wait, yeah, I don't think it's just. I'm just thinking. So Cortana, like they expired. They like got rid of their AI, right? Their one where you could talk to it, stuff like Cortana.
Cortana, yeah. I think they.
That
yeah.
is such a missed opportunity. I'm not gonna lie, it was one of my favorite from branding. And on Xbox, imagine a little holographic like Cortana popping up every time you asked it for stuff. That'd be awesome. I would have an Xbox right now if that was the case.
Yeah, they even got Jen Taylor to do like the announcement, like the voice. Yeah. Yeah. So it was brand synergy, and Microsoft. Let's just say they messed it up.
Yeah.
I mean, they could always bring it back.
They could. I bet you that'd be a lot. I bet you people would rather have Cortana than Copilot.
I'd rather have Cortana than any of the other AI stuff out there. I just think it's a cool thing.
When you installed Windows 10, if you had audio drivers, Cortana would like pop up and be like a little bit of Wi-Fi here, and it was like just weirdly sassy, and it just didn't feel like it didn't feel appropriate for what you were doing, and it was like, what is going on with this? Why are we doing this?
Cortana is kind of sassy in the games, in like the original.
Right. But like also, you know, how many people have played Halo enough to know what Cortana is versus people who are.
Hey man, Halo used to be on top of the world like
It used
a long
to be,
time ago.
among our generation.
I don't know. I don't know what you're complaining about. All I know is
I didn't know
I enjoy Cortana
All right.
as a fun brand. I hear you on that though. It is kind of like jarring, especially when you're doing all that, to have a voice. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want a voice at that point, but what I want is if I'm going to use AI, and I do use like Siri and stuff like that. I do use it quite a bit, like when I'm cooking to say, hey, add this to my shopping list. I would rather do Cortana. I'll be honest, like just because
That's fair.
of Halo and this nostalgia and everything, it just feels like I'm talking to an AI instead of like just a bunch of machine learning and some other stuff. You know, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of, AI voice assistants being performed by like actual actresses like Jen Taylor, SAG after negotiations surrounding the use of AI for voice actors has been ongoing for years at this point, or almost a year at this point. And what's going on with this, High Tech?
So, apparently, according to Jennifer Hale, best known as Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect games, essentially it's holding up game development. Not only is it doing that, but it's also like, people are without jobs. I don't know if she's referring to like voice actors or like developers, but like, yeah.
So, is this like a negotiate? So, is this what's the word I'm looking for? So they're doing like a protest kind of thing. Is it a
A strike?
like a strike from? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was a strike. So essentially, essentially what's going on is that, voice actors are concerned that you can just use AI to generate their voices and use them, and they don't get paid their dues, because instead of having them take like however many takes it takes to get a good line, you can just type it in and then it just generates that, and then they didn't do any of the work, and as such you don't pay them. So at the end of the day, it's about getting like fair compensation.
This is really messed up, and this is happening in the movie industry and some others, like with actors and stuff, that these companies think they can own your voice or own like likenesses and stuff like that. And here's another thing, like with this specifically too, is that, is it holding up game development and all that? Yeah, that's the whole point of a strike. That's the whole point of this type of stuff, is to put pressure on the company to say, hey, you can't do this stuff. And I think it's pretty reasonable to say, yeah, you can't AI generate my voice unless I get big time residuals. Like, if they want to start doing this type of stuff, you're going to need to get some type of royalty pay and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, they're going to train their ML. Like, and another thing is, they'll probably resolve this in a couple of years. They're going to train some AI voices that are going to meld with two others, like, and just train it off of their voices, and then they don't have to pay them anything, because they don't have, once it becomes a different voice, then I believe that they're just going to be able to go off and create their own games with it. It's a very troubling thing, I would say.
There's two things that I think need to happen with this. The first thing, like you were saying, James, there needs to be residuals or royalties or something, and it needs to cost 80% of what it costs to pay an actor to actually do it, right? Like, it has to be prohibitively expensive to the point where they just say, you know what, we'll get better results if we hire someone, and it's not going to be that much more expensive, right? That would be important thing for the Actors Guild to get in their contract with game developers. But the other thing I think is that there needs to be some kind of like AI training material provenance, right? Like, there needs to be like proof of where an AI's training data came from, and it needs to be like almost like a blockchain. It needs to be a scrutable ledger of where data came from and how, like, where an AI is generating its information from.
If you want ethical, because it's not ethical if you don't do it otherwise. I think.
Right.
I think I'm on that board of it's not ethical.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. But like having that provenance, having that like ledger, if you will, would be huge for this kind of stuff, because then Microsoft couldn't get away with saying it's okay to steal shit as long as you're training an AI with it. Like they literally said that. I mean, granted, copyright infringement isn't stealing, but I think if you are infringing someone's copyright and you're doing it by scraping stuff from their website, I think that bandwidth is theft. Like if you're taking it against their will, right? You're using someone's bandwidth.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, like this sort of like vocal theft it's far more damning than, say, I don't know, downloading a clip of like them talking from YouTube and then editing that around to make it sound like they're making another word. And like that's totally different, because you can make them say whatever you want, and and it's not just like game studios have access to this. Like it's anyone. Like you can make anyone say anything. Someone could take your videos, put them in like an algorithm, filter out the music and stuff, and then put it into like a voice AI, and then they could just make their own bootleg versions of like Gardiner, Bryant, or Games Revealed.
Yep. That's why I actually wrote a license for AI stuff. So I wrote a license called the Authorial Integrity License, and it's basically like the only way you're allowed to use any of my content in a machine learning situation is if you're using it to provide accessibility to someone. So like adding like text transcriptions or something like that. Like that's the only way I want my voice used with AI.
I think it's a good idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, here's from a gamer standpoint, I don't want to be playing the next Mass Effect and have the main character be AI generated. I can tell. Even to this point, I can tell. A lot of people can't, because I have AI generated my voice for my audience before, and they couldn't tell, which I was a little like, interesting, because I have some tools just for fun to do it. But I can tell, and I feel like we've had this discussion before, but I don't. Now, what I would like to see is, let's say Grand Theft Auto, or these big games where I want to go interact and have like a very uniquely, AI generated script with one NPC or something. I think that'd be really fun. Like the crazy person, just going crazy, like being able to use my voice and talk with them. That would be fun. AI generated for that is fine, in my opinion, as long as you're not using the likeness of someone, or even using that data that was generated. Like you need to pay them. But I don't want my main characters to have AI generated. I just don't want them. That's going to be a big no for me.
The only, like, I agree with you, James. The only way I would want to have like AI generated gameplay stuff is if I'm playing like a VR game and I'm going around interacting with NPCs and I can converse with them in real time, and they're contextually aware of like what's going on, any quests that I have, or even if I just have to tell them, hey, I'm on a quest. That would be kind of neat, right? To if they have the parameters of the game and like what can be done, that would be cool.
So
I think
they're already working on this type of stuff, and so like you can get a mod for Grand Theft Auto 5 that you can go and chat with them. It will run it through, I believe, a ChatGPT, and this was like years ago. So I'm sure it's even improved better.
So I think we've actually talked about a game like this on the Steam Next Fest. It's not it's not like an RPG, but like it's a Yandar.
It's like a girlfriend simulator, right?
It's like where you have to spend time with her, but also not piss her off enough to like have her murder you. Oh my God. It's the funniest thing ever.
What's the name of the game again?
AI2U, I believe. I think it's about to come out this month.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I was like, why?
I mean, it's an innovative use of AI, and apparently, and from what I understand, the art itself wasn't AI generated, and I understand that maybe the like voice actors have residuals or something like that. I don't know the full details on it, but
as long as it's fair, that's what I care about. Because that type of that's innovative, and I like that. That's where I want to see the AI kind of stuff go. But I want to make sure people are compensated too. Like
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the only like real issue with AI, because like AI is quite capable of doing things, like, but the problem is that like you can use AI to steal people's voices. You can use AI to steal entire people's art styles too. And that's messed up, especially if you're using it for commercial use. Like, it's one thing if some random guy, does something for free and doesn't he doesn't make money from it. Mm-hmm. But it's another,
it's unethical and it's immoral and it's probably illegal.
Yeah,
but they're doing it anyway.
Well, illegal? Well, I don't know.
Well, copyright infringement is a criminal offense.
Yeah, but I don't know if training a system based off of like copyright material. They're not publishing it. They're not doing it. They're training a system that is a derivative work, which is appropriate.
Which is copyright infringement.
No, a derivative. So,
unless something is licensed to allow derivative works, any derivative work of a copyrighted work is copyright infringement.
If I'm not
unless it's like what's the word? God damn it!
Social media.
Unless it's transformative enough. But
That's what
I would argue that an AI algorithm is not creative enough to generate something that is transformative. I think the creative process is what is transformative, and therefore AI cannot be anything other than derivative work.
So sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
this is a hot.
This is a debate. That's what
I'm talking about. Is derivative of like everything, all the stuff paintings, everything we've done in like as the human race is derivative work to a point, right? And so, but it has I think you're correct on this though. Like it has to be different enough, and that's what I was going for. And I do think if you want the art style of maybe one person, but done in a completely different type of painting, maybe let's say, that could maybe be argued as derivative enough. But we need my whole point with all this is that we need addendums and stuff to maybe copyright law and some other laws.
I definitely think so, yeah, because copyright law currently may not be enough to exactly cover every AI scenario. I think it will be eventually, but not right now.
Maybe.
I do want to mention that I remember in the early days of AI, someone fed ChatGPT the entirety of all of the existing George R. Martin books on the Game of Thrones, and they used that to AI generate the next 2 books. And then George R. Martin got pissed off and sued ChatGPT, and I think they had to remove it.
Interesting. Yeah, he's big enough too. I think right now, because the big companies are benefiting from this enough that they aren't going to be pushing for anything. So you can, big companies really like this because they don't have to pay people as much. But if it switches and up and comers, indies, whatever, then use these things to then make something that, let's say, a derivative of Disney, Mickey Mouse, something even though that copyright's up now, but they do something that maybe isn't up, they do maybe something newer, then you're going to start seeing big companies probably push for laws. So we could see it, we might not. It really depends on big companies, unfortunately, I think.
I think we have to see the laws sooner than later, because I remember you guys know Jeff Geerling. He does a lot of Raspberry Pi videos. His voice was stolen for promoting a product. And I mean, people like MKBHD's voice has been stolen to a number of different times because 15 million subscribers, and it's kind of just what happens to you. I think, I'm sure at some point we'll have our own version of SAG-AFTRA, but instead of voice actors, we're content creators on the internet. I don't know if will that ever happen.
They tried to do it a couple years ago in Germany, I think probably 2016. Now that I think about it, quite a while ago at this point. But I don't know where it went, but I haven't heard anything about it since they announced their.
Might be time.
Yeah. My question is, if we ever see AI generated NPCs in games, what is that going to mean for speedrunning?
Well, they'll just go back to speedrunning Super Metroid.
Yeah, that's true. Was Super Metroid done at AGDQ this year?
Probably. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I kind of just added this as a topic to mention that it happened.
That was a good transition though. I feel pretty good about that.
Imagine AI generated Super Metroid. That'd be so funny.
Oh man.
Like
AI
you've
upscaled.
seen you've seen AI generated Minecraft, right? Like it looks like Minecraft, and then you turn like 9 degrees left, and then you turn 9 degrees back, and it's some completely different terrain.
Yeah, I was thinking AI generated Minecraft is what like the trailers for the Minecraft movie looks like. Like those characters look
God.
horrific, dude.
They look horrific, and I'm here for it. But I'm here for it as a horror movie, not as a Minecraft movie.
dude. So we should like recut the Minecraft trailer, dude. That'd be awesome as a horror.
that
Man,
would be.
Jack
the
Black.
wolf, dude. That wolf is disgusting looking. Like why, dude? Ugh.
Why did
Anyway,
Jack Black sign on to the movie, man? We'll never know.
probably he has kids, man.
He probably played Minecraft too.
Yeah.
That is true. That's true. Kind of reminds me of how
He's a-
Raul
Yeah.
Julia did the Street Fighter movie. It was objectively a bad movie, but man, he like made it like watchable.
Really? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's so like you know what Street Fighter is, right? It's like
Oh, yeah.
it's a series of one-on-one fights, but they turn into like a war epic. It's the stupidest thing ever. And you guys know Guile, right?
Saving Private Guile.
All right, so so Guile,
Yeah.
he's supposed to be this like epitome of American culture,
Yeah.
but he's played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's like he's like the most like intelligent American I've ever seen.
That's funny.
And no one throws any fireballs either. No one has any powers.
No Hadoukens?
No Hadoukens.
Oh my god.
And Bison has to use like rocket boots to like fly around and shit.
What?
The only special move you ever see is like Guile doing the somersault, which I mean is Jean-Claude Van Damme. He could probably do that in real life, but still.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh my god.
So, with this speedrunning stuff, I never thought about it, but from an AI standpoint, like, do you think you're going to start getting, like, we probably already have it. I haven't really looked in speedrunning in a while. I watch, like, Half-Life speedruns is what I would do, because there's a lot of, if you watch those, holy crap, they find loopholes to get through those maps so fast. I am shocked.
Yeah. Portal also. Portal has some cool speedrun.
I haven't seen the speed.
that's good.
I'll have to see those. But AI, like, would be able to speed run things faster than anything. Like, you think they've trained anything? Have you seen anything where they've trained AI to speed run?
I saw Seth Bling do like some long time ago, like 5 or 6 years ago. I saw him do some AI training for just playing Super Mario Bros. Or maybe Super Mario World, but I don't think I saw him do AI stuff. But that would be interesting, like being able to like have what is that? The TaskBot, you know, the TaskBot. Having that do some kind of AI stuff would be really interesting. Being able to like find exploits through like AI based fuzzing would be interesting. I don't know. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Speedrunning is kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like weird for me because I know that like you can play a game fast, but like there's a lot of stuff that makes you wonder how they even find it. Like, there's a lot of, like, exploits that just warp you to the credits, and that's, quote-unquote, counts as being the game. I mean, like, it kind of seems a little ridiculous, to be honest. I saw an Earthbound speedrun that was kind of like that. Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah. I've seen some Earthbound speedruns.
Interesting.
The entire map, like, all levels and everything in Earthbound is just part of one map. And so, like, if you go up to, like the top right corner of, like, Onett, and you, like, just wiggle your way through one of the cliff sides, you can go up and like walk through the entire map and find your way to like Gygas or something, and just it's wild.
How would
It's
they even
pretty cool.
fight Gygas at that point, though? They're like level like 1, right?
Well,
Or really low level.
yeah, I don't know if they actually fight Gygas. I think that they can like do some other exploits to actually get to the end credits.
I think it's fun that they find ways to do this. It's just, it extends the life of the game, because you're just like,
Oh, yeah.
wait, I did not realize you could do all this weird stuff. I mean, I would never play it that way because it takes a lot of work. But like the bunny hopping in Half-Life, like I'll go back to that all the time. Like they can jump over the whole freaking map.
Yep.
It's
Was it like backwards, like jumping backwards doesn't have, like has infinite acceleration, is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
To Yeah.
And there's like air control stuff too, right? Where you can, when there's no friction of the player moving against the ground, and you're strafing left and right and moving the camera in a certain way, you can just gain incredible speed going forwards too.
Isn't that the whole like basis of surfing maps in CS? If I'm not mistaken?
Yep. It's wild. I just watched a video recently. This is totally tangential, but about like the legacy of id Tech 2, right? Like the Quake engine, and how, and like where that ended up becoming source, but it also ended up becoming like all kinds of other, like there's still code from id Tech 2 being used in, or maybe in Tech 3, but one of them still being used today in games like Call of Duty and in like the light flashing pattern in Half-Life Alyx is the same as in the original Half-Life, because it's all based on. It's so wild, dude. It's so. I'll drop a link to that in the show notes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legacy stuff that we don't realize. Like Windows is all like that too, where there's a lot of legacy stuff that we don't think about. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you'll have to tell us more about what this next topic is.
Oh, this is one that I don't know if you guys saw anything on this, but The Last of Us, they have like an experience room or something like that at CES. And I think it was at CES, and I don't know how they're going to go about doing this, because when I first heard about it, I thought this was going to be like you could buy at home, but I think it's just going to be, I don't know. So essentially what I'm talking about is that they have a room where you can go and experience in like a 3D dimensional kind of like way The Last of Us. So they have a very specific situation where you have like a gun that you get to hold, and I think like a light, and they have props and stuff. You can pick stuff up in this room and in this environment, and then on top of it, they add in like haptic feedback into like I think the suit. It's been a little bit since like a couple days. Sound effects, and then they even have sense to enhance the immersion, which I'm just like, I don't know if I want a clicker to I don't want to hear a click or smell a clicker. I don't want to smell these, but I'm not gonna lie, that would be very intense, especially in VR. I don't even think this is VR. I think this is like the rooms lit up and the whole, like they have screens I think in the room. I'd have to look at this, but the main reason I'm pointing this out, this is right here. The environment was created using large screens and LED panels. The biggest reason I'm pointing this out is that that scent thing just really got to me. Like
The PlayStation 5 scent thing. Smell-o-vision.
I know it's not PlayStation 5, is it? That's all you can get it for the PC, but there is a smell-o-vision kind of thing that you can get. But it doesn't. How would you make some of these smells? It's an interesting kind of step forward that I think is going to be fun, but I don't know. I think it'd be more fun as like an experience room as opposed to like in my office or.
Prepare to never see any sewer levels in video games ever again.
Oh my
but
god!
Imagine it'd be cool.
Imagine having one of these like rooms in your house and having to reload the fart juice.
Oh god!
That's so stupid. I'm sorry.
The thing, so you know how like escape rooms are a thing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this is, or honestly, this kind of makes me think of like the earliest stages of the holodeck in Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Where honestly, it would be fun to go to a place and kind of experience something from a game that I love, and so I'm here for this type of thing. Escape rooms are fun, but I think I'd have a lot more fun in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems super neat. Like you were saying, it gave me the thoughts of like a holodeck. You know.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I would be interested in trying it out, even though The Last of Us, that body horror stuff, I just can't deal with it. Like, but I would still want to try it. You know. Dude,
Absolutely.
imagine having like smell-o-vision and Alex, dude. I would love that.
Would you
Having
though?
to deal with Jeff. I would. If you could get like a little like scent projector for your VR headset and you could play Half-Life Alex with like sense like smell immersion, because we always forget. We always like forget about how important smells are for forming memories. And if you walked into like the implant the implanted what's his name, you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
if you walked into his den, right,
Yeah.
and it had like this kind of like earthy smell like on the outside, or kind of like stagnant water, and it just gave you this like sense of like, oh shit, something smells weird, but then you meet him and then he had a distinct smell. Like, dude, I would be totally down for that.
Yeah. I would be too. Like if I can experience Half-Life even more, I'm down for it. Even if it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm down for it.
Like
And there's
walking
sewer levels
through
in that.
Yeah, I know, walking through the sewers where there's all those body bags and shit, like, oh my god, I'd be there for it. I would totally play that.
I just don't. I'd want to go to a place to do that, or have it be like a Neuralink or like some type of a VR headset that like can interface with you to a way that it can simulate scent. But I definitely wouldn't want that in my house. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the scent like thing, to be honest. But like, imagine if you had like they mentioned a suit, right, where you could like feel things, right? Imagine if you had that, but then like imagine if you had to play like a medieval game where you're like a knight and then like your arm gets cut off. Dude, that would be intense.
Yeah, and they've had haptic feedback like suits for a little bit, but they're not greatly supported. So this is another thing. Like, this is a Sony thing, so they're kind of innovating. I think it'd be cool. I don't know where they're going to go with this, but it's cool. It's a proof of concept demo, of course. A lot of things don't come from proof of concepts. But it'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, the
Where
whole
does it
haptic
go?
suit thing kind of reminds me of Evangelion. You guys ever see Evangelion? So one of the main like things with the mechas there is that you have to synchronize with the mecha, which means you essentially feel what the mech feels, because the mech itself is like a bio mecha, to be honest. So essentially, you like, if you're 100% synchronized, you feel what the mech feels. So like, if the mech's arm gets ripped off, you feel like you feel that sensation. And like some of the pilots in that show die because of that, because like, shock. And I think
That show is
yeah, it's intense. And like, I think one of the movies, one of the girls, Asuka, is like 300% synchronized with with like her Ava, and then like a spear like goes through her hand, and it splits like the hand in half. It's really gory, but like it splits her hand in half too, with her arm in half too. It's insane.
You're not
Wow.
selling me on this experience. I don't know if I want to have that feedback now.
Yeah, true.
No, it'll be interesting to see where we innovate away from. Like, I think graphics cards, like we talked about earlier, like they're trying to find ways. Obviously, you can tell like they're limiting certain things to be able to release new hardware every few years, and DLSS I think is just one way of answering. Like, we don't have an answer for you quite yet. It's super expensive to increase the core counts and all that, but I think, yeah, this is just another way I can play this in a very different way, a game in a very different way, and being innovative I'm here for it. It has not done very well in the past, and VR is still one that like a lot of people don't care for, but I'm hoping that this continues to be the case, that we keep on seeing new innovations, because I just don't want it to be stagnant for the rest of our lives. That'd suck.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that Xbox could do, and that's implement gyro on their controllers, because like a lot of games don't have gyro, because like the Xbox controller at this point is like the lowest common denominator, and it just doesn't have gyro functionality, and like a lot of FPSs would benefit from that, but they don't, because like like imagine if they made a new Xbox controller with gyro and they implemented that as part of like X input, and then all of a sudden games got official gyro support on PC now. Like, wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd be great.
There's a video about that actually, about like how the oh my god, the Xbox controller is like holding back controllers in general. It's by Nerl. Have you guys heard of Nerl?
I don't think
I
so.
can't say I have, no.
Oh man, you're in for some good stuff, man. Nerl has he's got a couple million followers, or a couple. This one video is about the Steam controller and how gyro controls on the Steam controller is amazing, and how Xbox is holding it all back because, and how Nintendo did a disservice to gyro controls with the Wii U and their waggle bullshit. But yeah, it's a really, really great video. And he talks about emulation and stuff too, but I'll put that in the show notes, and that'll be on the podcast as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll have to watch this on my own time.
Yeah. Cool.
I agree.
I think that's probably everything that we wanted to talk about today, right?
Yeah,
Always.
I can't think of much else there is.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for being here. We always enjoy doing this. I never get to talk about this stuff with people in real life because everybody I know is like old or not interested.
True that.
Yeah. So it's good to connect. Or
No, it's great to connect and chat about this stuff, especially with people that are very passionate about it. Because I get to talk to people about it, but not people that are as passionate.
Speaking of the devil, it looks like someone put out an article. With SteamOS expanded beyond the Steam Deck, is it game over for Bazite? Let's see what this article says. Let's see. The feature, Bazite.
I think we can say what the article's going to say. I don't think it's game over.
No, definitely not.
Yep.
Like we talked about desktop. I think like desktop's still like a big thing that they're not going to support very well.
Yeah, like I mean, to be honest, if you want the Linux desktop experience, you can install one of the big ones like Ubuntu or some people like shy away from Manjaro. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. Maybe that's Gardiner.
I like Manjaro a lot. I think that if you want to go with an Arch-based system with a traditional package manager, then Manjaro is probably the best one to go with if you don't want to set up Arch. I'm using Fedora now on my setup here. It's a little jank right now because I have the open source NVIDIA drivers and I have a 3080, but I mean it's still pretty nice. It's still pretty nice. I like. I'm even editing all of my videos on Fedora, which I'm pretty happy about. That's something I'm going to make a video about my Linux production workflow pretty soon. So that'll be good. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, so whatever the majority is going to use or like knows about is what they're going to end up using. So Bazite could still be like some people might start using a little bit because they know it's SteamOS adjacent, but SteamOS probably eventually will become a big desktop version potentially if Valve chooses to go that route, because if you want to get people to game on Linux more, you got to make it easier for them to do that, and that's it.
Well, this is what's going to happen, right? Like if you go on the Steam hardware survey right now, Bazite doesn't even show up, right? Yeah. Like Bazite's not there. I mean, it's in the other category, right? Alongside Chimera and like a bunch of other things. So Bazite is very niche in the Linux world, which is also very niche itself. And the biggest thing that's driving Linux adoption in desktop computing right now is the Steam Deck. And when SteamOS hits, SteamOS is going to be the dominant desktop operating system, point blank. Like not even Ubuntu or Manjaro or anything can keep up with the growth, the explosive, amazing growth of SteamOS. So the question is SteamOS becoming dominant, going to make all these other distros irrelevant? Of course not, because they're still going to have their passionate fans and people like me and like some of us. I don't know, High Tech, are you running Linux right now on your desktop?
No, and that's entirely due to laziness.
Right, but that's the thing, is like people like me are going to still be having fun distro hopping and enjoying running Linux, and because of that, I'm just not going to be probably I'm not going to have SteamOS on my primary rig.
Yeah, I probably won't either.
But you will have it on your living room machine, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I'm going to probably switch between. There's tons of reasons to switch between SteamOS and Chimera and Bazite and Nobara and a bunch of other Linux gaming distros. So I'll be doing that mostly for my own enjoyment and maybe for some videos.
Yeah. I don't think there's much else to talk. I don't think there's much else in terms of any important news that just came up just now. I don't see anything. I see we have.
I think anything that pops up from here on out, we can discuss next episode. That's why
Agreed.
you got to subscribe so that you don't miss out.
Absolutely, and
Hell
follow
yeah.
us over on our podcast too. You can use any app you want. We have we're on iTunes, Apple Music, or no, wait, what is it? What's the other one? Spotify. We're on all of them, so you can get us wherever you get your podcast from, or you can subscribe here on YouTube if you're watching anyway. But yeah, that's gonna do it for now. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you to Rich for being here. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
All right. See you guys later.
What's
What's
that?
that?